So we've got a V10 R8, and that will be starting in the second place on the grid. But on pole position, we're going to have the Lamborghini of Marc Basseng. He, alongside Stefan Rossina, will be piloting this number 24 machine. And again, a very similar engine, but a different chassis and a different challenges for the engineers to deal with, John.
Yes, I mean, it is very much an Audi engineered car these days. Lamborghini is part of the VW Audi group, of course, and they've brought great engineering continuity to Lamborghini, and the two cars quite different in visual aspects and different in mechanical layout in terms of the suspension, but the engine is part of that family, and it delivers very good horsepower, and it's extremely drivable.
And here's the MP4 12C, which will be started by Alvaro Parent. This one, a 3.8 litre V8 twin-turbo McLaren, which has had its teething troubles mainly last year. This year it's been pretty reliable, producing 500 brake horsepower, and has powered the McLaren to 4th place on the grid then for this race coming up today. But Alvaro Parent and Sebastian Loeb really need to find... I mean, I call it luck. You disagree that it's about luck, but that start incident in Slovakia, for example, they got sandwiched at the first corner. Nothing they could do.
Well, Sebastian Loeb, an outstanding motorsport competitor in anything he's done. I mean, Pikes Peak decimated the hill climb record there in North America. How many world championships and world rallying, and coming into motor racing, but his motor racing experience is not as great as those around him. And in Slovakia in turn one, he just found himself caught in a rock and a hard place, and where more experienced drivers might have read that situation either earlier or possibly better. And that's why I say, bad luck, good luck. It's very much within the control of the driver or of the team, and certainly reading what's about to happen. I mean, here we've got a relatively short run up to turn one, which in normal dry circumstances is flat out. It's just a kink. But immediately you're through it, you're on the brakes, and you're having to get the car stable and settled for turn two and then turn three. So all that comes down to driver experience and just simply reading what's going on around you. Now, other people say, oh, it was bad luck. Well, I was taught by one of my former team bosses that bad luck is something that's in the control of all of the team, and you try to mitigate it with every possible piece of experience.
15-second board being held aloft then, and it's great to see that the Zero BMW is making its way to the end of the pit lane, so we will get a start from Caca Bueno, although he'll have to go once everyone else has headed off on the start of the race, as we go on board with Wolfgang Reip at the wheel of his Nissan. This is on board with Alvaro Parent, starting in 4th position. There you can see the gap where that BMW should have been, as we wait for the green flag lap to get underway. And we think most of these cars are on wet tyres. There may be one or two out there who have gambled on slicks. That'll be something to keep an eye out for in the rest of the race.
I think that the initial judgment I'm looking for is to see, is there any spray coming off the rear of these cars when they get up to racing speed? And I suspect there's not going to be a huge amount of it, and that's going to be the issue that teams are going to have to address, because once you get this race underway, and if the rain, which still is falling, but it's not say, the level that we saw on Saturday, but there you get a view of the circuit up through turns 2 and turn 3, and that's slick, and that's the worst situation for everybody who's starting.
Here's a look at the grid then. On pole position, it'll be Marc Basseng starting alongside Edward Sandstrom on the front row. Oliver Jarvis making his FIA GT Series debut will be starting in 3rd place. Michael Ammermuller, great qualifying performance from him. He'll be in 5th place. 6th place BMW won't be there. Van Thor, championship leaders, only managed 7th position. Dusseldorp and Ordonez starting in 9th and 10th position, but that Nissan will have to take a drive-through penalty for an engine change. Jelmer Berman in 11th. Watch for him climbing up the order. Same can be true of Duncan Taffy in 13th position. Harry Prochik, 2nd in Pro-Am Championship, will start in 15th place on the grid. Wolfgang Reip ahead of Mike Parisi, who had a terrible qualifying session. He's looking forward to flying through at the start of the race, with Philippe Sledecka and Martin Matska, another newcomer to the series, at the back of the grid. 10 series debutants this weekend, driver-wise, because we've also got Attila Abreu out there in the 21 BMW Sports Trophy Team Brazil car. He replaces Ricardo Zonta, who's racing in his native Brazil. We've also got Hubert Hoopt and Martin Matska together in the number 3 HDP Gravity Charouz car. Actually, Hubert Hoopt isn't the debutant, is he? He did the last race in Slovakia in the Gentleman's Trophy. But Jelmer Berman is going to be one to watch, I think. There you can see Kaka Bueno sitting at the wheel, and he will be released pretty promptly as we get ready for this rolling start that will start the 1 hour race. It's a mandatory pit stop window. Vincent Voss on the left there, and Nicky Melnoff on the right, having a little chat. But yeah, 10-minute pit stop window between 25 minutes and 35 minutes into this 1 hour race. And I think we've got a new race director for this weekend, Alain Adam, who's usually working with the World Touring Car Championship, and they're very hot on rolling starts here. Basseng and Sandstrom were ordered to go and see him so that he could fully explain what he wanted from the rolling starts. Stefano Ortelli watches on. But through the final corner they come on the green flag lap. We're about to get racing in the 5th round of the championship. It's the qualifying race about to start here at Navarra. Marc Basseng on pole in the Lamborghini, Sandstrom second in the Audi as the lights go green. It's a good start from Alvaro Parent, pulling towards the outside on the run down to the first corner. Parent's going to take the lead here. Fantastic start from the Portuguese driver. Basseng gets shuffled back. A phenomenal start from Lucas Ordóñez. He's up into 3rd position, but he's got onto the slick AstroTurf on the outside and can't get it slowed down. Look how cramped it is going into turn 3. Ordóñez off the road again, but somehow he has gone from 10th to 3rd by the time they get to the first corner. Everyone else busying their way through the left-hand kink as the 2nd McLaren runs wide.
Yeah, Mike Parisi, the way he got trapped with traffic around him and nowhere to get back onto the racetrack. But what a start from that Nissan in 3rd place. An absolute screamer up the outside and around the outside of turn 1 and slotted that Nissan into position. And, well, you can't do better than that.
There's been a huge shuffle around. Stefano Ortelli looking on, looking quite concerned. Where is his Audi? Oh, there's 4, 5, 6 abreast coming down the back straight there. Michele Rugolo is up into 4th place. It's 5th place for Steph Duffeldorp, 6th position, possibly now 5th, as Laurens Vanthoor tries to go past Steph Dusseldorp and does get up into 5th place. Then we've got Harry Prochik and a huge gaggle of cars further back. What on earth? Look at this, Matthias Stump making a move on Jelmer Berman now. Stump in the white Lamborghini going past the BMW. What happened to our pole sitter Marc Basseng? He's dropped down the order so rapidly, I can't even see him coming through there. Oh, and there's a spin.
That's the McLaren. Von Ryan McLaren, Duncan Tappy has been tapped and spun around, and he's going to have to wait for the whole field to get through. He may well have had the engine that was coming through turn 13.
So
turn 12. So we now the field beginning to string out, but certainly where did Marc Basseng get to? He was sort of swamped by the entire field on the run up to turn 1.
He and Oliver Jarvis must have had a moment, because those two are now running right at the back of the pack. Across the line they come at the end of lap 1. Alvaro Parent leads by 1.3 seconds. Sandstrom is 2nd. Lucas Ordóñez is 3rd. 4th is Michele Rugolo. 5th is Laurens Vanthoor. 6th, Steph Dusseldorp. And yes, Jarvis coming across the line 19th. Basseng coming across the line in 18th place. So our 1st and 3rd place starters now running in 18th and 19th places respectively.
It certainly looked very congested when the cars were coming out of turn 8. That's the corner that leads on to what we call the back straight, whether that was the area where the contact or whatever took place occurred. But we never get a little opportunity to see back on that opening lap, certainly into turn 1. Everybody except Lucas Ordóñez appeared to be fairly cautious. He just charged up the outside.
Oh no, Steph Dusseldorp has been spun round by Matthias Stump, coming into the right-hander of turn 8 that leads out onto the back straight, and that HDP Mercedes is parked there. He gets going again, but that's a real shame for their championship challenge. Matthias Stump tried the move, didn't work out. Now we're looking at Mike Parisi trying to get past the Nova driver car of Michael Ammermuller. So Ammermuller's another one who lost out hugely at the start of the race.
I thought he might have some damage in the front of that Audi. It looks to me like some of the aero parts on the right-hand side. There you can see damage around the wheel arch.
Yep.
And that's obviously the consequence of having contact.
Into the left-hander they come. The race will now start to calm down a little bit. Kaka Bueno's up into 16th place. Jelmer Berman's just set the fastest first sector of anyone, and he's in 8th position. So, well, he'll be up to 6th place now, actually, after those two came together. Across the line comes Alvaro Parent then. Has his lead extended on that lap? Yes, it has, up to 1.7 seconds.
Well, I mean, Michele Rugolo up to third place in the Ferrari, and that is absolutely flying.
Ordonez has taken his drive-through penalty. That's why you can see on the left-hand side of the screen in the pit lane, Lucas Ordonez serving his drive-through penalty at the end of lap 2. I thought he might have waited a little bit longer to allow the field to spread out a little bit more, so he could perhaps maybe not lose as much track position. And then here comes Marc Basseng, our pole position car. He said to me just after the warm-up session, I don't think we've got the pace to actually win this race, but I don't think he was expecting to finish the first lap in 18th position as some bodywork flies off.
Was that for the bodywork we thought from Michael Lammermuller's car? That was the car that clearly had damage to the right front, and it's no surprise to see a bit of bodywork on the racetrack, whether that's from his car or from somebody else. But it strange start to this race. The only thing that is clear that Alvaro Parent really had a good run down into turn 1, but also the performance of Michele Rugolo, currently in third place in that Ferrari. That's out.
It's over for Stef Dusseldorp, the number 1 HTP Mercedes, which had problems getting to the grid because of gearbox sensors, has now seemingly got damage at the front right, which I can't quite figure out because I thought he was hit on the rear right, as Mike Parisi gets put out wide and loses 3 positions. So Parisi struggling in the wet. Now he sends one back up the inside of Caca Bueno and gets 1 position back. Bueno gets the cutback. Meanwhile, up in front, that's Wolfgang Reip going past Martin Matzke. And this is all squabbling ultimately over 12th position. And there is Stef Dusseldorp, the Dutch driver, getting out of the car because he is out of the race as these fights continue. Like I say, all over 12th place.
Well, they're all trying to find track position, and by diving up the inside, look at the damage to the nose of that Mercedes as well. It's been involved in contact. I don't know which car was the beneficiary of that, but you've got 5 cars trying to use the same bit of racetrack now, going from right across to the left to try and block, opening up the outside line for Mike Parisi in the McLaren to get a run down the outside up into turn 1. Is he far enough? He just squeaked through. There was not a lot of space, and the McLaren needs to be careful. The Mercedes is attached to the end. Was that contact or not?
I'm not sure. Well, whatever happened, Parisi got on the AstroTurf. He keeps making up places and then losing them just as quickly. We've got Audi ready in the pit lane, by the looks of things, out of the window. So
that'd be Ammermuller's car, because that's got that heavy damage to the right front.
It's the WRT squad. So, but everyone went past, so we'll wait and see what happens with that. Still this battle going on circuit, and that is Caca Bueno going past Martin Matzke. Parisi will try and get through.
Exactly, that's what I said. Watch Parisi. He was the 3rd car in that group of 3, and all of a sudden the Mercedes has been shuffled back. So Mike Parisi has finally made the pass on the Mercedes, and this time it's sticking because the BMW likewise has made its way through as well.
And Philippe Sledecke following through, yes, as you say, in the BMW. And now Parisi will try and get past Caca Bueno again. Bueno a little bit out of shape coming into the right-hander, but the good news is that we're seeing the 35 Nissan coming back into the fight as well, as the battles continue down into the left-hander of turn 11. Parisi right on the back of Bueno, but I imagine Bueno might be able to just start to get a bit more comfortable now the squabbling has stopped. Alvaro Parent continuing to lead this race, the teammate of that number 10 Mike Parisi, and there you can see at the back Lucas Ordonez after that mega start. But Alvaro Parent it is who leads after getting a fantastic getaway. 2nd place Edward Sandstrom, 3rd place Michele Rugolo. You can see them all going offline in order to cool their tyres.
Yeah, but Laurens van Thor now beginning to make headway, fastest sector time in sector 2, and he's got Michele Rugolo only 0.8 of a second ahead of him. So the Ferrari driver is going to find Laurens van Thor all over the back of that car. So Van Thor probably the likely of the two to get into 3rd place. As Sebastian Loeb keeps an eye on what's going on, and behind him Andreas Zuber, who will take over the car. There is the lead car driven by Alvaro Parent, and a comfortable 3.7 second lead over Edward Sandstrom in the Audi in 2nd.
Okay, so we're hearing that the 24 Lamborghini of Basseng and Oliver Jarvis are both on dry weather tyres. So that explains it. Basseng, we think, was on dry weather tyres, apparently, according to our sources. There's the start of the race. Look on the right-hand side, we've got Lucas Ordonez in that big white Nissan getting a rocketing start. Everyone else struggling as they come into the first corner. Well, Parent's got the job done.
The reason why the cars on the left-hand side of the grid got the advantage is, if that was the case, if that was the case, that we saw the Lamborghini at Bassang starting on those slick tyres, then everybody on the right-hand side was going to be backed up, because Bassang could not take the risk of trying to get through turn 1 and then into turn 2 and 3, simply because there was no grip. And it was the people on the left-hand side, and we see Alvaro Parent doing a brilliant job of just going down the left-hand side, staying wide in turn 1. And look at that, well, there's a bit of a smile. We don't often get a smile from Sebastian Loeb, but there we see it. But everybody now who is on that wet tyre, looking for the damp or the wettest part of the racetrack, they want to try, if possible, to string out their race until that pit lane opens in what will be another 15 or so minutes, rather than having to come in and go on to slicks and then having to come back in again and do the driver change.
Now, the handy thing having Basseng and Jarvis out there on the circuit is that
and Rugolo gets onto the...
Oh, yeah.
He just ran the curbing on the outside of turn 2, and consequently an easy overtake for Laurens van Thor. That's just what you want, a driver to make that pass available to you. So he's now up to third place, so it's Audi in third, and second place with Edvard Sandström. But there's about 1.5 seconds gap between what there is Edvard Sandström, there is now Laurens van Thor. So that battle is going to be engaged very shortly as well. So can Van Thor take away second place? He also runs the curb coming up into turn 8, and car just got a little bit, you could just see it was edgy, but the gap between first and second now 4.2.
Yes, I was so with Basseng and Jarvis on the slick tyres, that means we're going to be fairly easily able to tell when it's the right time to change to slicks, which I think every team will be looking out for. At the moment, they're 8 seconds off the pace, but that time will come down.
Yeah, but how soon is it going to come down? Because if everybody who is on the wet tyre can still lap, they're lapping currently around about the 150s, but they can still lap in that area at the point when the pit stop opens, they're the net winners, because Jarvis and Bassang have rolled the dice, they're taking the gamble, but ambient temperature is not really warm enough, I think, to take that chance. Track temperature and track conditions don't look like there's a significant drying line. Parts of a track you can see there, for example, coming through turn 14, clearly look to be better, but other bits of the track are not, and the lap times of the two cars on slicks, as you mentioned, they're 8 to 9 seconds a lap off the pace of the lead cars.
So this is the battle between the Lamborghinis for the lead in the Pro-Am class. Harry Procek has it at the moment, but he's got Matej Stump right up behind him. This is good news for Procek's championship challenge. Simonsen and Afanasiev are currently third in class, so it's not a huge amount of points that he'll close in on, but if he can constantly finish ahead of Simonsen and Afanasiev, then it'll be good. And there you can see Mark Basseng out there on his slick tyres.
I mean, on pole position, to take that kind of gamble, I don't know, I can't quite see the logic of it. Maybe it will come to Mark Basseng later in the race. We're only, 12 minutes or so into this race, and it's not working. Look there, you can see plus 9.4, plus 10.6, plus 12. I mean, it's just, it's not working, basically. Bad choice by whoever made the decision. In the case of Audi, they've got enough cars that they could have rolled the dice. In the case of Mark Basseng and the Lamborghini, I think that was a mistaken choice.
There's Matej Stump, definitely on his wet weather tyres, and he's dropped off the back of Harry Procek just for the moment. Battling over 6th place overall, which is also the Pro-Am lead, and it will ultimately become 5th place when Michele Rugolo comes into the pits to hand over to his gentleman driver teammate Claudio Stanisvich. Yalma Berman is closing in on Rugolo as well. He's lapping 2 seconds a lap quicker at the moment, Yalma Berman, that BMW, so the battle for 4th place is on.
More critically, just keeping an eye on the back two cars, Basseng in 18th and Jarvis in 19th. They're on slicks. They're beginning just to gain slight advantage. There's still 8 seconds a lap, but it's gone from 9 and a bit to 8 seconds. So with 12 minutes or 11 minutes remaining before the pit stop window opens, but let's ride on board with the BMW.
Down to the first corner then, on board with Yalma Berman. Pretty much flat through that first turn 1. Then you're going to need to get it stopped in time for 2 and then 3, which keeps coming back on itself. And then in the dry, it's flat out through this left-hand king.
Well, that's about as flat out as you can get, unless you can find somewhere more space to push the pedal. But here into turn 5, you've got an option. You either come in early and hold it, or stay slightly wider, as you're seeing Yalma Berman do. And then to get back in for turn 6, and then immediately you're having to cut back to the right for turn 7, and they're staying off the racing line, looking for the damper part of the racetrack to give those wet weather tyres the chance to live. Now through turn 8 it looks better than it is through some of the other corners. Again, straighter back over to the damp side of the racetrack. There's still a bit of moisture. You can see rain, whether that's spray coming off the car ahead or whether that's actually rain falling. But the Ferrari ahead of the BMW in 4th place, Michele Rugolo in 4th place in that Ferrari. I think there's still a certain amount of rain in the air. I think that's not just simply spray from the Ferrari.
Well, the brollies are down around the pit lane area.
Yeah, this is the back end of the track.
Yeah. So it's certainly not raining as hard as it did earlier on. You can see Furman occasionally having to give the screen a bit of a wipe. Now we're into the very tight right-hander that brings us down towards the left-hand kink at 14. Again, usually flat. Not totally flat,
it's
but
sort of, you're almost there.
And then the final corner.
Always easy to overrun. You can always outbrake yourself into turn 15. So it's still the Audi's battling for that second place. Sandstrom only has a 1.1 a second advantage as they come across the line. And there we see the battle for 4th place, the Ferrari, and then followed by the BMW, and then a further battle for Project and
Stump
and right on the gearbox of Harry Project.
Well, Stump it was who span out the number
Mercedes.
1 Mercedes, so he may well be in trouble for that later on in the race. We haven't heard anything from the race director, but wouldn't be surprised if Matthias Stump was in some form of trouble as the battle for the Pro-Am lead continues and Project gets out of shape, and that means it's an open gap up the inside and Matthias Stump moves through. Project just got out of shape through the middle part of turn 5, and Matthias Stump in the ACL by Road Drive Lamborghini is now up into the lead of Pro-Am and into 6th place overall.
Didn't need a second invitation. He saw the pressure, got the reaction he wanted, and he got his Lamborghini up the inside of Harry Project's car. Now Project running down in 7th place, but the battle for 2nd place coming down into turn 8, we saw very, very close indeed. So Lawrence Van Thor has run down Edward Sandstrom, and there's potential for an inter-team battle for 2nd place between the two Audis.
Here is Lucas Ordonez continuing his charge back after his drive-through penalty. So currently in 16th place, trying to get past Martin Matzker in front of him, who's in 15th place. And it's the battle for 7th place in the Pro-Am class.
See how slippery it is still around the back. That's through turns 9, 10, 11, into turn 11, the left-hand corner. Really struggling to get traction, and that's on what you'd call the wet tyre. So while we're seeing, well, in fact, those two cars on slick tyres have started to drop back in time, but I think that the back end of the track is still suffering from a light rainfall. We're not seeing it happening here on the pit straight. Donne wondering whether we're going to see these two cars. 11 is the Van Thor car in 3rd place. 13, Edward Sandstrom in 2nd. Gap is less than the second, 8/10 of a second, but I mean, in effect, time is irrelevant. It's now about who can force the issue. And I would imagine Laurent Van Thor thinks that he is going to be the hunter who's going to get that scalp for 2nd place.
It's going to be very interesting to see, because the question is going to be at the pit stop window in 7 minutes' time, do you put your car onto slick tyres? Because if you keep them on wets and then have to make a pit stop later on, that will harm your chances. But this is the battle for 2nd place overall, but effectively the lead of the championship. Ortelli, that man there, and Van Thor in car number 11 have a considerable advantage over Stipler and Sandstrom, but Stipler and Sandstrom have been strong this season, and they are in 2nd place, 19 points behind. So it's very important for Stipler and Sandstrom to keep ahead of Stefan Ortelli and Laurence Van Thor here today. So they come through the left-hander.
It's just interesting the way that both Audis, watching Sandstrom, slightly different exit to turn 14. Laurence Van Thor, the second of the two Audis, keeping his car a little bit tighter to try and get the better line through turn 15 and get the exit. Gap coming across 6 point. 0.6 of a second. I was going to say 6.6 seconds behind the leader, Lawrence Van Voor, but 0.6 behind Edvard Sandström. So it may well be that Van Voor, all he can hope to do is just put pressure on the Swedish driver and force an issue, which he was able to do with the Ferrari a couple or 3 laps earlier up at turn 2.
Jelmer Berman has moved up into 4th place on that last lap. He's got past Michele Rugolo, and Mathias Stumpf is right with them as well. So that's a nice little battle going on over 4th place. And Oliver Jarvis, we can see in the WRT in front of these two, is about to get lapped because he's still out there on the slick tyres. And there he is going wide down at turn 8. He will move out of the way, no doubt, to let his WRT teammates go past down the back straight. It's going to be a little bit tight going into the hairpin, but Jarvis will get right off the throttle and move out of the way, no problems there. 5 minutes to go before the pit stop window. Vincent Voss watching on, Frank Stippler behind.
And I'll tell you, the gamble of starting on slicks has not paid off because Mark Bassang has finally got into a 1:57. That's still 7.5 seconds behind the pace of the lead car, Alvaro Parent. And the pit stop window will be open in 5 minutes, so the mathematics are quite clear. And the judgment, with hindsight, was also clear. Bearing in mind ambient temperature, track temperature, the nature of the circuit, bad decision by Mark Bassang's team, and maybe in the case of Oliver Jarvis, because they've got so many cars, they could afford to roll the dice, but at the end of the day, it was still the wrong decision.
But it'll be slick tyres at the pit stops, do you think?
Well, you might say that, but the drivers may not agree. I think the drivers are going to say at the minute the balance of performance still lies with the wet weather tyre. The best lap that we've seen from Mark Bassang now, he's done a 1:56.6, so clearly track conditions are beginning finally to improve. We're almost 20 minutes into this 1 hour race. It's taken 20 minutes to get to a point where you're lapping within 6 seconds. In fact, it's 7 seconds with Alvaro Parent, even in the improving conditions on the wet weather tyre. He's now done a 1:49.9. So there's 7 seconds still between the lap of a slick tyre and a wet weather tyre. 5 minutes, or what's 3 minutes now, 4 minutes before the pit window opens. It's a question of whether the lead car will come in at the earliest opportunity, or in my view, keep him out for as long as possible and then make a judgment. You've got a 10-minute window to make that judgment in. When you get to, well, the pit stop window opening in 25 minutes into this race, by the time you get to 35 minutes, those extra 10 minutes might be the time then to put on the slick tyre, but not to come in at the earliest time and then decide which set of tyres. So I imagine the lead cars are going to hang out until the last possible moment, and then they've got the best opportunity to make the tyre judgment.
We've just seen Oliver Jarvis continuing to be lapped, this time by Berman, Rugolo and Stumpf. And it is Michele Rugolo and Mathias Stumpf doing battle here over 5th place. Stumpf looks up the inside in the Lamborghini and slides through.
And just watching Stumpf, he's done 2 good passes. Once there we saw on Rugolo, and that was coming into turn 13. He's got through, and Rugolo thinks he might have a chance to come back. He's trying to down the outside, get the better exit off turn 15. But Stumpf did a good job. He did it in Harry Project. He forced the error there. As we go back to this battle now for 2nd place, and team boss Vincent Voss, well, the mind, I'm sure, is wondering what's going to go on. You can see Van Voor slid the car through turn 2, trying to pressurize Edvard Sandström, but the phlegmatic Swede ain't going to have any of it. And, well, Rugolo hasn't given up on that battle that we've been watching for 5th place. He's just lost that 5th place to Stumpf in the Lamborghini, but I think he feels he could have it back again.
5 seconds is now the difference. Bassang has just done a 1:55.9 on that last lap, so the pace is coming to the slick tyres eventually. Far too late for those two, but it's making it look more and more likely that if you stay out for another 10 minutes or so, slick tyres will be the way to go.
You got it. It's going to be a late call for all these leading cars, and look, Lawrence Van Voor right. You couldn't get any closer to without swapping paint with your teammate. So just very careful through these sequence of lefts around the back of the circuit, out of turn 11 down into turn 12. Again, using the curb, but on the wet weather tyre you can get away with it. As we see Duncan Tappy now trying to come back. Remember, he was spun out very early in the race. As Lucas Ordóñez goes the long way around in turn 5, and can he make it stick? Can he get? No, I think Duncan Tappy. Well, yeah, Duncan Tappy's really battling with the Mercedes, trying to get around the Mercedes, and Lucas Ordóñez is doing all he can to get past both.
That is the slick shod Lamborghini getting out of the way of the two Audis that are going to be absolutely nose to tail as they come across the line now. So it's Stanstrom in the red-winged Audi, it's Vanthor in the white-winged Audi, and it's Vanthor who is leading the championship, and he's going to try and go around the outside at turn 1. Laurence Vanthor, can he get past into second place? He can. What a phenomenal move, but Stanstrom still has the inside line coming into 3 and holds the place. But what a daring attempt from Vanthor.
And what good, look at Vincent Voss pulling his hair out. Oh, sorry, Vincent, you don't have any to pull out. Maybe that's the reason. Look, Vanthor back behind Edvard Sandstrom, battling into turn 5. And I mean, these two drivers are going at it again. I mean, there's no paint being swapped at the minute, but this is a real drag it out knuckle fight between the two Audi drivers.
Sandstrom knows that really to keep his championships alive, they have got to finish ahead of Vanthor and Ortelli this weekend. There's Stippler behind. He's Sandstrom's teammate. Down the back straight they come. The pit window has now opened, and of course that could give an advantage. Audi are going to have to decide here, because there will be an optimum time to make the pit stop, and they can only give that optimum time to one of their two teams, one of their two cars. So that'll be a decision for Voss and Pierre Dieudonné to make.
It's not the decision that anybody wants to make. These two are battling not just for position, as you point out, for position overall in the championship. So I suspect whoever is leading at the point, the decision to make the pit stop will be given the option to be the first into the pits. And at the minute it is Edvard Sandstrom who's holding that position. We saw a great challenge a lap ago from Laurence Vanthor, and he's going to probably try and do much the same again. The difference is now the momentum. That I always refer to momentum. It's such an important part in the skill and art of overtaking, and Sundstrom has managed to consolidate that battle, that challenge, and Laurence Vanthor that little bit further back. Now, we don't know if there's any contact between ship and shore, between driver and the pit lane, to say, look guys, you know, great fun for the viewers, we're here to win a championship, we don't want unnecessary contact.
Through the left-hand kink at turn 4, down the hills at 5. I really thought Vanthor had pulled that one off. It was a great attempt from him. In has come one of the BMWs. It's Sergio Jimenez to hand over to Attila Abreu. Abreu raced in Formula BMW back in the day. Finished second in the championship in 2004. Formula BMW ADAC to a certain Sebastian Vettel. So he's got an awful lot of paces, Attila Abreu. Races now more regularly in the Brazilian GT Series and Stock Car Series. Duncan Tappy's come in now to hand over to Gregoire de Moustier.
I just wonder, has there been the slightest of contact between Vanthor's car, because the grille in the Audi looks slightly askew. Now maybe it was somebody else earlier in the event, but there looks to me to have been slight bit of contact. So Laurence Vanthor running now just really in the tyre tracks of Edvard Sundstrom, as we see people now getting prepared for the pit stops. But this battle here, I suspect they're going to be amongst the last to come in, as is the race leader. We've seen little of him, 9.1 second advantage. Alvaro Perez enjoying, he's having a lovely Sunday afternoon. Here's what occurred a couple of laps just a moment ago.
Yep, Vanthor pulled out and tried to use his pace because he could take the wider line. He didn't have to lift off as much for the first corner. It looked as though,
well clear.
Yeah, it looked at this point like he got the job done, because he's definitely in front there, but on board with Sandstrom as he braked later. The car up the inside to go back into that second position.
Well, the grille on Vanthor's car at that point was
here he comes. Oh, not quite close enough. I thought there was going to be a bit of a touch there between the two teammates as they go past the McLaren that is now in the hands of Duncan Tappy. My apologies, the starting entry list appears to have been altered a little bit in the case of Tappy and de Moustier. It was de Moustier who did that first stint, but here we're watching the battle between the Audis. What is Basseng up to? Jarvis has come into the pits. Basseng on that last lap did 2 minutes, but he was getting out of the way of traffic. So that'll be very interesting. Audi in the pits. Will they decide to put this Audi that's coming first onto slicks or wets? That's the big question as they do the tyre change. Out into the pit lane we go as the two lead battles go on.
Well, the best time that we're seeing from a car on slicks is Marc Bessang, 1:55.9. And on the basis that you believe it's no longer going to be any rain, all you're going to do is wait for the track to dry out. It would be, I still think, a difficult decision to make, because with the ambient low, track temperature low, the track hasn't really delivered up as quickly as those that are on the slicks. And down the inside, can he do it?
Not quite close enough, but he's managed to push Sandstrom a little bit wide. But still, Vanthor unable to make the move past.
Again, the wide difference line between Sandstrom coming out of turn 14 live for Vanthor, trying to make the cutback, gets a better drive off turn 15. And you can see how he ran up to the tail, now right under the rear wing. He's going to make a move, he's going to have to cut out to the left, and again, go the long way along. Can he get far enough alongside? He can't. Sandstrom just still has got that enough. In fact, Laurens Vanthor backed out of it marginally earlier to start preparations for other parts. He's going to try and maybe get a run out of here, turn 3. Could he even dare to go alongside and get up the inside into turn 5? That's another option. As Sandstrom, damage.
And off has gone Aman Ibrahim in the BMW, and he's on the circuit. Will this bring out the safety car? Potentially. We'll have to wait and see. He's lost that. Where is that? That's into the first corner.
Streaming whether he was in
turn 1.
He may have been involved in a battle, but he's not. He's topped and tailed the car. He's damaged the nose and the tail of it. So we'll hopefully maybe get a little glimpse of that. If you see this battle that's waging between Vanthor and Sandstrom, there is the BMW driver out of the car. He's going to be disappointed. We don't know the cause of it, but Vanthor again uses that very late turn to try and get cut up the inside as they go into the long turn 10, which actually blends. It's a double sort of apex corner again, staying out to try the cut back out of turn 11, then the short sprint down to turn 12. But really, unless you're alongside the car, you have to accept that you can't make any move.
So it sounds as though most teams are making slicks ready in the pit lane. Here's the look from Vanthor. Almost a touch between them, but I think they got away with it. Still no contact between these two. This is only the battle for second place, by the way. Alvaro Parentis still out in the lead of this one. Here comes Vanthor up the inside into the final corner. Sandstrom sees it coming, swings wide, bounces over the curbs to try and get the grip back, and they're going to be absolutely wheel to wheel. These are our first and second place men in the championship. Across the line they come. Vanthor has half a car length's advantage. There's yellow flags, so there's nothing Sandstrom can do.
Exactly, and this is up into turn 1. The BMW somewhere on the outside of the inside. We couldn't quite get a view of that. But Laurens Vanthor has worked very, very hard indeed, and he's got it all done into turn 15. And now that he's ahead of Edward Sandstrom, you would expect to see Laurens Vanthor begin to ease away. But we've got only 3 minutes of this pit lane window open. So these two cars are going to have to make it into the pits very, very quickly. Whether they do it at the end of this lap, which I think is probably what they're going to have to do, because they're only halfway round, and I don't think they'll have enough time to complete this lap and another lap before the pit stop would actually, the window would be closed. So both these Audis are going to be coming in. Whether the McLaren will be able to get another lap or not will require another calculation. But the gap between leader and second is 13 seconds as we go on board. This is a replay of what we saw Laurens Vanthor and Sandstrom get up to. There is the drive from Vanthor on the left of the picture. Sandstrom trying to come back, but by this stage Laurens Vanthor had it, and Sandstrom had just had to fall back in line through turn 1.
He had to back off because of the yellow flags, and there you can see slick tyres ready in the pit lane.
We got wets.
No,
they're mounted on wets. Yes,
yeah.
It's a tyre, not a tyre and rim.
Yeah. So out of the pit lane comes the number 10 machine.
Andreas Zuber on board,
and the race leader has come into the pits actually.
And the two Audis had no choice to come in.
So this is going to be an absolute pit stop race between the two factions at WRT. This is going to be very interesting. As they come down, they pass Alvaro Parent, our race leader, who's in there, handing over to Sebastian Loeb. This is going to be very, very interesting indeed. Into the pits they come.
So it's Van Voor stops and Ortelli opens the door. Now Sundstrom stops and Frank Stippler does the same thing. So a battle between there. We see Ortelli getting into the car. We see Sundstrom helping Frank Stippler into the car. New sticker slicks going on. Best lap, last lap from, just trying to have a look and see what we've got.
Here comes
From Bassang.
And look, the 13 car's got back out in front. So it's Frank Stippler who's got back out in front of Stefan Ortelli. So the positions swap around.
And we got Sebastian Loeb, just saw him literally going out of shot as the two Audis leave the pit lane. So the gap between first and second has reduced during those pit stops. But we've seen a change of position in the pit lane between these two Audis. Frank Stippler and Stefan Ortelli runs way wide. And he needs to be careful. Those slick tyres on a wet track, especially sticker tyres, are going to be tricky until you get the film as a part of the releasing agent from the tyre. When it comes out of the tyre mould, gets rubbed off.
As we figured, everyone coming into the pits then at the last possible opportunity pretty much. And whence they all come back through, we'll try and figure out exactly what has happened in there as far as the order is concerned and the Pro-Am standings as well. But there is our race leader, Sebastian Loeb.
Now, if he's on slick tyres, there is no better man in the field to drive a car in these. Now, why are the two Audis dropped back like that? There's a massive difference.
Well, no, but why was Frank Stippler pulling to the right-hand side?
Well, why is Ortelli? What's wrong with that? Oh, the BMW.
Karun Chanduk. Karun Chanduk's gone off, I think, on the run down towards turn 8. And that's a bit of a moment for Chanduk as he recovers, only loses two positions, I should say.
Again, that's the danger of coming. These drivers have not driven, the ones that have taken over, who've been put onto a slick tyre on a track they've not driven on with these tyres, and it's a real handful. And Karun Chanduk getting caught out just into turn 8 and spinning it around, but luckily not having contact.
And there we just saw a change to the lead in Pro-Am. That 25 Gottfried Gratter racing Lamborghini has just got past Patrick Kuhner, so it's now Gerhard Torreza who's in the lead of Pro-Am. Now we've got battles going on with Andreas Simonsen and Cesar Campanico. These two doing battle at the top of the Pro-Am standings, with Harry Brocek on his way at the moment, finishing second in Pro-Am. So it's all kicking off. Andy Zuber has just set the fastest middle sector of anyone.
And
so now
you'd have to think that's not a time done in slick tyres.
Well, yes, quite possibly he set out on the wet.
Exactly, and that, I just wonder the wisdom of, I mean, clearly if the track does improve, then ultimately Zuber's got to come in again. But is the track in the remaining 23 minutes going to be sufficiently good for slick tyre cars to match the time? The best lap that we saw from Navarra Parent was a 1:49. We're now looking at Sebastian Loeb on a flying lap on slicks, doing a 1:57. Again, 8 seconds a lap slower for the slick tyre cars.
It's worth keeping an eye on Frank Stippler, because he was hugging the inside line coming down the back straight, which you'd only do if you were on wets. And we certainly saw the slick tyres ready in the pit lane.
Yeah, but we've seen that Ortelli drop back. He's now 8 seconds behind Stippler in second place.
Okay,
you wonder, Stippler must be on wets.
Yes, Stippler is on wets, as is Sebastian Loeb, apparently, we're being told. So Loeb, out in the lead of the race, is on wet tyres. Okay, he's lapping slower at the moment because it's his first lap out on the track, as we see this battle continuing. A fantastic squabble going on. But that's the news I'm being given, is that Loeb and Stippler are on wet weather tyres.
Doesn't look like it by their times. They're doing 1:57s.
But we'll wait and see if those times improve. Let's focus on this on-track battle at the moment, though, because it's all frantically going on for the lead of Pro-Am. And it is now Cesar Campanico who has moved into the lead of the Pro-Am class in that 14 Audi. Meanwhile, we've got Frank Stippler doing battle with Duncan Tappy now. I think that's Tappy unlapping himself. Stippler's going past Tappy to put a lap on him. My apologies.
Stippler is on slick tyres.
He's just come across the... No, because he's just done a 1 minute 50. He's just done a...
No, he's on wets. Stippler's on wets. Loeb's on wets.
And
Ortelli's on slicks.
Yep.
And then the next car that's on wets is Zuber in the second of the two Sebastian Loeb. Everybody who's on slicks is struggling in the middle 50s. those are on wet, so running in the low 50s, or even in the case of Sebastian Loeb, a 1:49.
These two are definitely on wet tyres still. Michael Ammermuller and Andreas Simonsen doing battle over 5th position at the moment, which is the lead in 2nd place in Pro-Am, is it? No, it is the lead in Pro-Am, because... No, Gerhard Twareza, sorry, is in the lead. He's just disappeared off the road. I can't believe he was in this battle a minute ago, but he's now got a 7-second advantage.
Tires.
So
he's dropped
tires. Off.
I mean, the car that you've got to watch is Stefano Otelli. Just 21 minutes of this race remaining. He is, what, 13 seconds behind 2nd place, 22 seconds behind Sebastian Loeb in the lead. Now, his lap time's not going to drop significantly, but if you get down to 10 minutes to go, what will the gap be, and then how much can he rein in? It still looks to me as if the wet tyre choice, and Sebastian Loeb is just on the fastest 2nd sector on those wet weather tyres. As long as he can keep those tyres alive, he's going to be pretty much unchallenged. The nearest challenger to him is Frank Stippler in 2nd place, and at the minute Loeb has got the advantage.
Here's the continuing battle then. Cesar Campanico, the Portuguese driver for the Portuguese Nova driver squad, heading Andreas Simonsen. Nova driver currently 3rd in the standings, quite a long way behind the Mercedes, so they're not really in the championship battle. They're involved in it, but they're the outsiders, whereas Andreas Simonsen currently leading the championship, but he knows that his main championship rival is a couple of positions ahead, and as a result, this would bring down the points by some 4 points, I think, so the gap would just be 4 points at the top of the Pro-Am standings going into tomorrow's main race, which will be quite entertaining. Gerhard Twareza's just done the fastest final sector of anyone. That's an impressive performance. Now, what have we got going on here? All sorts, by the looks of things. It's Attila Abreu at the head of this queue, and behind him is Alex Buncombe, and now in front of him is Alex Buncombe as he gets up the inside. This is all over 13th position, believe it or not. So it's 13th place for Buncombe, 14th place for Abreu, 15th place for Tappy in the McLaren, and 16th place now for Hubert Hoped in the Mercedes.
So Duncan Tappy needs to be careful. The damaged Mercedes is looking to find a way past the McLaren, but what was clear is Alex Buncombe gained the advantage. Alex's last lap was a 1:58, and again that looks like a wet weather tired car. So we go back to Nathanappius, and
still battling.
Yeah.
It's Andreas Simonsen at the wheel. He's still battling with Cesar Campanico. And Stefan Otelli actually is in danger of losing 3rd place here to Gerhard Twareza. Not in class though, but Twareza's lapping 6 seconds quicker than Otelli. So
he's flying.
He is flying.
He's just tearing up the racetrack literally as Stefan Otelli is sitting there just waiting to get on the power. And you can just see the difference in drive. Now, in a straight line, the two cars got very similar performances, but headlamps flashing from the Lamborghini saying, I've got the momentum, but more importantly, I've got the grip, and I need to get past you as quickly as possible.
Here comes Andreas Simonsen again then across the line. Is he going to be able to get past this time going into turn 1? Looks to the outside to try and go around the outside of Campanico and pulls it off. Good stuff from Andreas Simonsen, the Swedish driver who won overall last time in Slovakia ring. And here comes the battle for 3rd place. Through goes Gerhard Twareza.
Yeah, I mean, just simply, he's got wet tyres, Otelli's on the slicks, and even Otelli's last lap, a 1:55, nothing he can do about it. And Twareza's lap, 1:49.5. So, I mean, it's just simply, Otelli is a sitting duck for everybody coming behind. You've got Campanico, who's now going to be a further 10 seconds back from this battle for what was 3rd place, now it's 4th place, will become a 4th place battle, and we've got 17 minutes of the race remaining.
You can see Duncan Tappy at the wheel now, and they are actually, if you remember, I was saying it was Duncan Tappy for the start of the race, and Von Ryan are now actually under investigation for not starting with their designated starting driver. So that explains that whole kerfuffle. But here's our race leader, Sebastian Loeb, leading the way. He's looking to take his 3rd qualifying race win of the season, and that would be his 3rd win in 5 qualifying races. They haven't been able to get anywhere near that ultimately in the main races. Nevertheless, it'll be a great start for tomorrow, and it will see Loeb start on pole position again. They won the qualifying race at Navarra and at Slovakia last time out. Blue flags being waved in general, because here's Gerhard Twareza making his way past up into third place. A really strong performance. Yes, they're on wets and other cars are on slicks, but nevertheless, there are quite a few cars out there still on the wet weather tyres. Now that Simonson's got past that Audi, he's beginning to pull away, second in class. So that means the gap would only come down by 2 points in the Pro-Am Championship. But at the moment, Sebastian Loeb has got an 11.1 second lead up at the front, ahead of Frank Stippler.
Yes, and there's nothing that Frank Stippler is able to do. I mean, the current lap times are within 2 or 3 tenths of a second of each other, but Loeb clearly reveling in these conditions which of course are very similar to that he would know from his days in rallying, and the BMW is shaking, rattling and rolling as it comes onto the pit straight right, the pressure behind on the Brazilian BMW.
This is for 10th place. Karun Chandok with Alam Koder behind.
Well, I've seen Karun get it all wrong in turn 8 when he had that spin, just simply going out on the set of slick tyres, but now getting the confidence and being able to defend. But the Brazilian BMW looks to me to be the one that's got the momentum, and it's waiting to see whether Karun is going to respond. But the second, it still wobbles around a lot. It did that coming onto pit straight, and it seemingly does it coming out of turn 4.
Up into the left-hander then at 6. Chandok holding that 10th position at the moment. We've only got less than 15 minutes remaining here. Koder trying to find the inside line. Now, how far off the lead now is Stefan Ortelli? That's going to be the interesting thing to see, because even if the track comes to him in this closing stages, which it still isn't, he's still 5 seconds a lap off. So I think it's over for Ortelli. The slicks, even in the last 15 minutes, unless something miraculous happens, I don't think we're going to see the track dry in time.
Like luck, miracles don't happen. It was a bad call, that's all you can say. And Koder goes down the inside, makes the pass on, well, trying to get back again, and he's on the inside. So Karun Chandok, using all that experience from talking about being a racing driver and the experience of being one. So good race going on with these two BMWs. And at this time, yeah, the Brazil car, well, and side by side, I mean, at least they're not hitting each other, which is, and this time Karun has got to put the brakes on because he was getting squeezed coming into turn 14, and now dropping back that little bit. So, well, Karun's had his race on this lap, so he'll be not dissatisfied, but obviously starting on slicks did catch him out, and the Brazil BMW now pulls away.
So that's over the 10th place for Alam Koder, which is 5th place in class. A lot of Pro-Am drivers getting involved, and also I think a shout out for Claudio Stanovic, who's still running in 8th position. I'm not sure which tyres he's on, because he's doing 1 minute 54s, so actually he must be on the wet tyres, because he won't have the pace to do similar times to the dry. As we now see Ortelli doing battle with Attila Abreu.
Oh, and look at the outside, the Mercedes coming into the...
And this is actually, Abreu is a backmarker here, being lapped, but Andreas Simonsen is now right up behind Stefan Ortelli and looking to take that 4th place away. And
he will do, because he again is somebody who's on the wet weather tyre. Ortelli's last lap actually was a 1:54, which is the quickest lap. Again, you can see the back of the car shimmying as it turned through the exit of 14, but Simonsen can get up the inside of the Mercedes. He's got the traction, and nothing Stefan Ortelli is able to do about it. Maybe straight line performance, the Audi's got the slight advantage. He may try to make a move up the outside, but that's been covered by the Mercedes, and pretty much everything is looking good. A little bit of rain just noticed on that up corner, the camera up into turns 1 and 2. As the car runs wide just on the exit of turn 2, that might be the consequence. There we're now seeing a bit more rain actually has begun to fall, because I'm saying Sebastian Loeb put the wipers on the McLaren. He paid for them, he's going to use them.
That's good news for the guys on wet tyres, such as Loeb and Stippler, but it's bad news for those who've gone for the gamble for slicks, such as our championship leaders, Stefan Ortelli and Laurens Vanthoor. The other interesting thing is, Ortelli keeps losing these positions, which we keep saying doesn't matter because it's not in class and etc, but let's not forget, this forms the grid for tomorrow's, for the main race later today.
What are we doing tomorrow?
I'm going home. But this decides the grid for the main race later today. So it doesn't matter who Ortelli loses the places to, he's dropping further and further back on the grid. So let's see how much grip Loba's got out there.
So up the straight, flat out through turn one. Well, was he? No, he was off the floor actually, and he's really, remember, on wet weather tyres, where a track is about 70% dry, but with the rain falling, it's coming back. But he effectively has probably got not a huge amount of tread remaining on those wet weather tyres. You've got just over 10 minutes in this race to go, and he's beginning to have to fight the car to keep the car in control going through turn 5. So he's enjoyed those wet weather tyres when the track was in that sort of slow drying phase. Now that rain is beginning to fall, albeit not particularly heavily, but it's keeping the track sufficiently damp. Those wet weather tyres are probably pretty much, not much of the tread block is remaining. So he's finding himself probably in a situation now where his lap times are going to start to get slower, and it's the Lamborghini in third place. It's just driving 49.6 against Sebastian Loeb's 151.1. Lamborghini 34 seconds behind the race leader. We're on board here with Sebastian Loeb. I mean, could we see a shock finish for potentially second place? It would be unlikely, but certainly a great drive.
Now into the pits has come the BMW, and they're
Slicks off
changing the tyres.
and putting wets on.
Yeah, quite possibly, because the brollies are up with less than 10 minutes to go here in Navarra. On board we go again with Loeb. He's got Steve Doherty up in front that he's about to come and lap, but he's still comfortably out in the lead of this race.
Just need to keep an eye to see if there is any reduction in the lap time due to the change in track condition. 151.1 was his last lap, well, about 3/10 of a lap slower, so it's almost academic. But you can see the wipers on that car being Audi not concerned about the rain on the windscreen. As we look at Frank Stipper looking for every bit of damp track, he's in the same situation on a wet weather tyre getting low on tread, and in effect becoming almost like a sort of a slightly more like a slick tyre than a wet weather tyre, but the lap time still favouring. But this is the car that's the quickest car on the track right now, well, just by a second on that last lap. Third place Lamborghini.
Fantastic performance
Superb
from
drive.
Gerhard Torreza. Really impressive stuff. But the big news could be Stefan Ortelli and Laurens Vanthoor, because if the rain comes down, they are going to lose so much more time, and might even, if it came down heavily, have to pit again for wet tyres, which will see them drop so far back.
Campanico is only 2 seconds behind Ortelli, and he's running in the 52s on a wet tyre. Ortelli's running 54s on a slick tyre. You know, the slick tyre time has bit by bit, but it's taken the best part of 51 and a bit minutes to get anywhere near what would be the overlap. And if you imagine that Jarvis and Bassang started this race on slick tyres, how wrong was that judgment, when we're still not able to match a wet weather tyre that's been running in conditions where it's probably the best part of the tread block's gone, and still the slick tyred cars aren't able to match those lap times.
Yep, absolutely. It really was a mistake from the front runners to start on those slick tyres, as we see Cesar Campanico edging closer and closer now to Stefan Ortelli. You can see the difference with Campanico going to get the damp part of the circuit, Ortelli doing everything he can to stay on the dry part of the circuit. 7.5 minutes to go. Torreza's just done his personal best first sector, so that Lamborghini's very, very impressive.
I mean, Sebastian Loeb last lap 152.2, Frank Stipper's last lap 151.1. Gap with what, 7 minutes remaining is 9.4 seconds. Not possible to do the calculations and say that Stipper could be on the tail of the Lamborghini or on the tail of the McLaren at the end of this race, but everybody's now driving around on tippy toes. Those who are on wets are on tippy toes. Those that are on slicks are still having to fight to retain control, but they're bit by bit nullifying the deficit between the two tyres. Loeb going over to the right to try and get some moisture to keep those tyres cool, And looking there in the background, there is Stippler doing the same kind of thing, staying way over to the right of racetrack as we get a look at Steve Doherty in the Nissan. And he's battling with Karun Chanduk and
over 11th place.
Yeah, it's been an interesting race, certainly for Karun, and Steve Doherty is probably going to make a pass on the BMW driver very shortly. I think Karun's finding this a real struggle, having never had experience of the BMW in these kind of conditions and just sort of been thrown in the deep end. Flashing lights as we see the Audi making its way through. That is Frank Stippler. He doesn't need any traffic to get in the way of his progress.
Now let's see if Doherty can take advantage perhaps of Chanduk backing off for the Audi. No, he's not quite close enough, is he? Oh, maybe as they come into the final corner, but Chanduk's got wide line in, so that'll give him the best exit of the corner anyway.
Yeah, but that was also
Stippler immediately dives.
No, but that was Stippler was coming through.
Yeah,
Karun Chanduk was as a lap down. Now we see Doherty, who's been maybe the beneficiary of that gentlemanly move by Karun Chanduk, up into turn 2, and just watch to see. Oh, and he goes off, and there it is, easy peasy.
Recovers onto the circuit, slots in behind Steve Doherty, now down to 12th place, Karun Chanduk. Doherty up into 11th, but still running in 5th place overall, as we now see Stefan Ortelli under pressure from Cesar Campanico behind. That's
Duncan Tappy sort of further down the field.
Oh, there's the nose up the inside from Campanico, and well, Ortelli needs to be careful here. The last thing he needs is to get punted out of this race.
But what Ortelli is trying to do is put himself ahead of Duncan Tappy to, there you see the headlights going nuts. Stefan Ortelli probably trying to say something over the radio to advise Duncan Tappy that he's a lap down, let me through. And then Duncan Tappy stays way, way, way wide. In fact, he just goes off the track, and that allows the Campanico car to also get through. So no advantage to the Monegasque resident. And he's hanging on there the best he can. Just 4 minutes and 19 seconds to go.
And he needs to be careful because he's got a very fast McLaren coming up behind, Andreas Zuber, who is actually in the same class as Ortelli. So that would put him down. If Zuber got past, it would put him down to something like 7th position. And there's the look up the inside. Whoa, Ortelli closes the door in the fight with Cesar Campanico. This is going to be an entertaining last few laps because, look, they're all starting to queue up behind the Monegasque driver. Out onto the back straight they come. Campanico moves to the inside because he's on his wet tyres. Meanwhile, Andy Zuber goes past Duncan Tappy now to take another position. Or to lap, sorry, Duncan Tappy again. And so now we're going to see a three-way battle going on over 5th place in the final. What? Well, Loeb has come over the line, so two or three laps remaining.
Two laps remaining, I would say.
Ortelli struggling so badly on those slick tyres. He's still lapping in the 1 minute 55s. Here comes Campanico into the final corner. Ortelli goes wide. That's going to allow Campanico the chance. It's not the final corner, my apologies, but it's still a sharp right-hander. Ortelli holds it in there just about, but then goes wide. This is the final corner, and here comes Andy Zuber. Watch for that McLaren.
Absolutely.
Takes the wide line in. He's going to slingshot out of there, and he's going to try and get past both of them on the start straight. Here we go then. Andy Zuber in the white McLaren. Past one Audi in an instant. Can he get past the other Audi by the time they get down to the first corner? This is the battle for 3rd place in the Pro Cup. Not close enough just yet, but it's also the battle for 5th place overall, which means 5th place on the grid for the main race later on.
Well, that's been an unexpected intrusion into this private Audi battle, and Andy Zuber's done a great job trying to, through turn 4, trying to put the McLaren up the inside of the Audi. He's got the grip in the same way that Campanico has on the wet tyres. And Stefan Ortelli again having to hang on literally by everything that's available to him to keep his Audi on the track. Slow the progress of the McLaren down, slow the progress of Campanico's Audi down, through turn 6, that right-hand corner, through turn 7, then the run down to turn 8, downhill, slightly tricky apex, and now Andreas Zuber, who's going to get the momentum off the corner, and it's going to be a defensive line, but of course Stefan Ortelli doesn't want to go off line because he needs the grip under braking, as Mike Parisi, thumbs up from Mike O'Greasy.
He's Irish today for some reason.
He could be Irish today, but look at this.
Here comes Shorley down into the left-hander. No, not close enough. but it's only a matter of time. Sebastian Loeb has come across the line, so this will be the final lap, or there'll be one more after. We'll wait for confirmation, depends how long ago. But here comes Andy Zuber to the outside line now. Ortelli has the inside, but he doesn't have as much grip, which allows Zuber to drive right around the outside, gets on the AstroTurf, and that could allow Campanico back into the party, and it does. So Campanico slots back into the middle of these two. What a great fight for 5th position. Zuber's going to try and pull the same trick he did last time.
He's got the two Audis almost side by side, so the racetrack a lot narrower.
And now Campanico has the inside line on Ortelli coming down into turn 1. Zuber's tucked right in there. He's got past one of the Audis. Campanico struggling in a straight line, tries to sell the dummy to Ortelli, but not doing. Fantastic stuff. A little bit sideways for Andy Zuber. There's Andy Zuber's other half getting a little bit nervous. And here he comes up the inside. Job done for Andy Zuber. He moves up into 5th place. Absolute delight in the pit lane. And this has been a great performance because they started in 18th position on the grid. And now Ortelli's about to get assaulted by Cesar Campanico. Look at them, touching each other all the way around. The look up the inside, is there a bit of a touch? Oh, there might well have been, and now Duncan Tappy wants to get involved as well. The clock has ticked to 0, so this is the final lap of the race. Duncan Tappy, meanwhile, is unlapping himself from Stefan Ortelli. Fantastic stuff. Campanico now goes back past Tappy, who realises he's just going to get the blue flags if he stays in front. Now the final lap, I think, means Sebastian Loeb is onto his final lap, and therefore these guys have one more lap to do. So these guys are on their penultimate lap. There's the move from Campanico up the inside, pushes Ortelli out onto the AstroTurf, and that sees Ortelli drop down to 7th position now. What a disastrous race this has turned into for them. It's possible to make up the places from 7th position, but it's going to be an awful lot more difficult when your teammate and main rivals are in 2nd place at the moment. There's the Sebastian Loeb Racing pit wall. They've seen their car come home to win the qualifying race twice already this season. And they're about to make it 3 out of 5 as far as qualifying races are concerned. They're getting used to these victories, but they're yet to pick up anything in the main race. Will that change here at Navarra? A circuit that has been so strong historically for McLarens continues to be so. The checkered flag is out. Tyres were perfect. Driving was perfect. A perfect race for Sebastian Loeb Racing. Loeb wins. He and Parent taking victory. 2nd place is going to be Frank Stippler. What a good performance from them, beating their main championship rivals. 3rd place across the line, Gerhard Tuareza. Fantastic performance from Tuareza and Procek. They'll start 3rd on the grid for tomorrow's race. 4th across the line will be Andreas Simonsen. There is Tuareza there, taking the checkered flag. Absolute delight. Simonsen will come across the line in 4th position. Jan Koener's finished in 9th. Alain Cordair in 10th. Steve Doherty's finished 11th. Hubert Hoopt has finished 16th. Chanduk finishes 12th. Very mixed up race after all that rain. Simonsen across the line. He finishes 4th and 2nd in Pro-Am, so that Pro-Am battle is going to run and run. It's fantastic stuff. Great drive here from Andy Zuber. Up into 5th position from 18th on the grid. He and Mike Parisi have performed very strongly. They told me they'd have the race pace after a disastrous qualifying, and they were absolutely spot on. Across the line comes Stefan Ortelli. 7th place for him. And it's going to be very interesting to talk to them in the break between our two races about what, who, when and why they made that tyre decision. It seemed like the right way to go. There's our Gentleman Trophy winner across the line, Claudio Stanišić, finishing in 8th place overall, which is a very impressive performance. after Michele Rugolo put in a mega start to finish the first lap in third position, I think it was. And there is our pole sitter. 15th place, Stefan Racina and Marc Basseng. They're ones to talk to as well, if I'm brave enough to ask them why on earth they started on the slick tyres when everyone else around them was starting on wets. An elongated final lap, wasn't it? There were cars coming across the finish line all over the place. But once again, Sebastian Loeb and Alvaro Perret prove they've got the raw pace. And it's been such a shame this season that they haven't ended up being title contenders, because they have the pace to be title contenders. It's just not working out for them. And he needs to go down to the end of the pit lane there, Seb. Down to Parc Fermé. Finds first gear and then pulls off. Here's a look at the results after the qualifying race. This will then be the grid for the main race coming up later. Sebastian Loeb Racing taking the win. Loeb and Perret in first position. Stippler and Sandstrom finishing in second place. And a fantastic performance from Gerhard Torres and Harry Poschek to finish in third position and winning the Pro-Am class. Claudio Stanovic and Michele Rugolo finishing 8th overall, winning the Gentleman's Trophy. But look at that, championship leaders Ortelli and Van Thor only finishing in 7th position. Further down, we had the 35 Nissan. Despite serving a drive-through penalty, Bunker Ordonez managed to finish in 13th position. Marc Basseng and Stefan Racina, pole sitters, finished in 15th position. Mermanov and Jarvis started third on the grid. They finished in 18th place. Alan Day and Aman Ibrahim were retirements. So there's Sebastian Loeb giving a wave to the fans up on the top of the main pit lane here. The helmet comes off. And we'll be talking to him, no doubt, in a few moments' time. There's our second place car. Frank Stippler. A lot of satisfaction for them, there's no doubt about that. Eight points for the win for Sebastian Loeb Racing. 6 points for second place, 4 points for third place. But we can now hear from our race winner, Sebastian Loeb. He's in the pit lane with John Watson.
Sebastian, congratulations, third qualifying race win.
Yeah, that's good, but never a race win, so hopefully this afternoon will be better than last time. And but I'm happy with the performance of the car. It was some good strategy also from the team. We stayed all the race with wet tire, I think a lot. Used some slicks sometime, and it was a mistake. So no, it was a great race for us. Alvaro took a great start like every time, and I could keep the lead.
Sebastian, today, were you a racing driver or are you still a rally driver in these conditions?
Maybe a bit of both. It's for sure, it's very slippery, and you have to control the slide a lot of time, but still it's different. It's racing, the car is different, it's a track, so more racing driver.
Where was the co-driver saying 5 left, 9 right?
The radio. The engineer told me, good rhythm, it's okay, good gap, no problem. So.
Well done, thank you.
Great to hear from Sebastian Loeb, and he's absolutely spot on about Perret's starts. Slovakia, he managed to go 9th to 3rd in the qualifying race. Here he's pulled off 4th to the lead at the first corner. There is Frank Stippler, and we can hear from him now after finishing in 2nd position, another man who stayed out on the wets.
Frank, congratulations. Somebody in the pits was looking after you today, making that choice for the wets for your stint.
It was a very last-minute decision. The slicks were there already, and it was just on the edge, I think. Fortunately, it began to rain slightly, drizzling mid of the stint, so we survived with the rain tires, at least. Without that kind of wind, we didn't have today. It was just the right decision, and it's always a question of good luck as well.
And welcome points. Congratulations. Thank you.
So that means that Frank Stippler and Edward Sandstrom close the gap in on Stefan Ortelli and Laurens Van Thor. It's still 16 points, but there's still 25 points up for grabs this afternoon. And then, of course, we've got the final round of the season in Baku. So it's going to be a fascinating race this afternoon, no doubt about that. Nicky Mermanov is now 3rd in the championship standings. As far as teams are concerned, Belgian Audi Club are in command, but Sebastian Loeb Racing are coming into it. Now that they're starting to get those points finishes, they are starting to close in at the top of the championship. Make sure you join us later on for the main race here from the Slovakia ring. But for now, thank you very much for joining myself, Jack Nichols, and John Watson. We'll see you later on.